Hey everyone, welcome back to the Developer Gus channel. I'm your host, Gustavo Amezcua, and it's great to have you here for chapter 7 of our Next.js Hotel Agency series. In the last chapter, we took a massive step and connected our project to a live MongoDB database. We set up the backend, created an API route, and got our data flowing. Now, if you're just jumping in, no worries. To catch up, just head over to the GitHub repository linked in the description below and make sure you're on the chapter 6 branch. From there, you can clone the project to your computer, run npm install in the terminal to get all the dependencies, and then run npm run dev in the terminal to start the server. You'll be ready to code along with me. All right, so our backend is ready, but our front-end components are still a mix of old and new logic. In this video, we're going to fix that. We'll refactor our homepage to properly use server components for data fetching and client components for interactivity. Let's start with the main entry point, which is the page.jsx, which is inside the root of the app folder. So the first thing I'm going to do, or the first thing I did, was add this parameter, which is the search params. You could call it variable, right? So it defines our homepage component. This line 5 defines our homepage component. So this special prop, it's not an argument, it's a prop, excuse me, it's a prop that Next.js automatically passes to page components. It's an object containing the key value pairs from the URL's query string. So if we were to go to the home page, this would be a query string. Just that, or adding all, or hotels, or how about condo. So it's the type of property that we want to return, okay? So that's why it's important to pass it here as a prop, so that inside of the function component, we can actually get the type parameter from the URL. Otherwise, it's just going to go to, so what's happening here is this constant variable of selected type. We either store the type value, or we just use the all string. So that's basically what is happening here on line 6. And then we return the JSX, but for the popular hotels component. So instead of passing the entire complex search params like this, instead of doing that, we just pass the selected type constant variable. We are passing only the simple string value of selected type, this constant variable. So that's all it needs. This is a best practice that keeps our child components cleaner and more predictable. So the home page's job is simple. Figure out what filter is active from the URL and pass that information down. Now let's see how the popular hotels component uses that information. This is where we've made the biggest change, converting it from a client component to a powerful server component. So let's take a look. First thing is, it's no longer using the following, which was use client. It's now a server component. So some couple of things are noticeable. The import fetch hotels function. So I imported the fetch hotels helper function from the request JavaScript file. I also added the selected type string prop. So I also made it asynchronous, so we can use await and it receives the search params from the home page, like I said. So in the home page, we pass this selected type, which could be all, hotel, resort, any of those values at the moment. I then fetch all the hotels. So instead of reading from a local file, which was hotels.json, we are now calling our helper function, which fetches the data directly from our MongoDB database via our API route, which our route is API hotels, and it goes into the route. So all this happens on the server. And then in this on line 12, well, what I'm doing there is create an array. That's why this is in an array. The first value is all. And then I use the spread operator to create a new array. So what I'm going to do is loop through these hotels that I got from the database and get the type of hotels that exist. It's either a hotel or a resort. So if I take a look at MongoDB, the type is hotel for most of them, and there's only one type, resort, which is the Rio Beachfront Oasis. And then on line 15, I filter our hotels array, which we got from the database, on the server before sending it to the browser. So if the selected type is all, then we want to keep all the properties from the database just how they are and put them in the filtered hotels constant variable. Otherwise, if the type is hotel or resort at the moment, then I'm going to filter from the MongoDB properties, filter them, and only return the ones that are of the type that we wanted. So this part it's filtering, going through each hotel from the database and adding and only getting those that match the selected type from the URL. So for example, if I click on the all button, it even includes the Rio Beachfront Oasis, even though it's a resort, because we want to see all the properties. Otherwise, it's going to, let's say if I click on the resort button, it's only going to show that property that is of a type resort. The hotel, it's not going to show that resort property. So going back, so now that the filtered hotels constant variable contains those hotels of a certain type, I'm going to loop on line 33 through each hotel and assign them to the hotel property component with its key, which is the ID property value and the hotel information. And then let's take a look at the hotel filter buttons. I added this prop of the types of hotels. So it's all hotel or resort. I passed that down as a prop. It is a client component because so we can use the hooks, and there's going to be interactivity from the user. So what happens here is, so it is running on the browser, and we were able to use these hooks that I imported. I added this types prop because we want to get all the types of properties that exist, which is really only all hotel and resort. For the use search params hook, it lets this one on line 6, it lets us read the current URL's search parameters. On line 7, the use router, this hook gives us methods to programmatically change the URL. So we want to be able to change the URL and use path name. For this one, this hook gets the current URL's path. And then we also want to use, right here we're using use search params, and we want to get the type. Right now it's hotel, or it just defaults to the string value of all. So we need this active type to add an active class name. So right now and I don't think I added a CSS property, but you can see right here it has the value of active. If I click on the all button, now the all button has a class of active. Same thing for resort. As you can see, it says active now. What else? So right here, we go through each type of property, add a button, and whenever one of those buttons is clicked, we pass the type of property to the handle filter function, which is this. We create a new, we want to search, we use the new URL search params function, which essentially it creates a mutable copy of the current URL parameters. If the type is equal to all, which we pass down here, we want to delete the type parameter. So if we click on all, well, we want to get all the hotels, but it also adds this value at the end, which is called popular hotels, so that whenever one of these buttons is clicked, it keeps us showing the popular hotels component. That's why I added it in the popular hotels component, this value where it says ID equal to popular hotels. Otherwise, if the type is not equal to all, then we need to set the parameters. So if I click on hotel, it changes the type of hotel parameter to hotel. And why is that important? Because for this last line of line 22, it adds the type of hotel or either deletes it if I click on all. Now, why is that important? Whenever that happens, a new URL is added, we're essentially updating the browser's URL with a new query string. So it's a new URL with a new query string and a hash to scroll to our hotel section. Like I said, whenever these buttons are clicked, it keeps us showing the popular hotels component. So when this URL changes, it triggers Next.js to re-render our server components with the new filter. So essentially, when these buttons are clicked, it's gonna re-render the home page. It is passed down to popular hotels, that component, and it's going to again filter the hotels that we get from the database. So again, I'm going to click on hotel, or let's click on resort. It's going to trigger the home page to again, so from the home page it passes down the type of search parameter. So yeah, the type search parameter is passed down to popular hotels component, and again it gets it fetches the hotels and filters them on line 15, so that the filtered hotels variable contains only those properties that we want, and it passes them down to the hotel property. So that's essentially what I added. I edited the home page. Passing down the search parameters, which is the type search parameter, passed it down to the popular hotels component, which takes care of getting that search parameter, fetching the hotels, making sure the types of hotels are passed down to the hotel filter buttons, and the filtered hotels variable is updated, which means this part of the popular hotels component is updated. And the hotel filter does its job of updating the URL which again triggers the home page to run again the popular hotels to re-render. So the filtering works, the page scrolls into position, and all our data is coming live from the database. That's a wrap for chapter 7. We've successfully refactored our front end to use the modern server component architecture. In the next chapter, we're going to build out the individual detail pages for each hotel. You don't want to miss it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.